as all right, so we are live. Welcome. Thank you for coming. This is the Ross Local School District. Gets me every time. Trish is here. She'll monitor the chat or just pop in. Again, you know, we can help each other out. And I get people say all the time, well, this is a stupid question, or I know I should probably know this. Guys, like, we're all in this together. And I'm sure if you have that question, maybe they're not here today, but when they watch it on the replay, they probably will have that question. So go ahead and ask it. Like, let's just get it out there. I don't know everything about Google Classroom. I try to stay up on stuff, but let's help each other out. Like, maybe you know of something. Fourth grade teachers, I do want to bend your ear. And it goes with this grading piece, but it only will work for fourth grade. So don't let me forget. Google Classroom progress book. Remind me to talk to you about this, okay? And it's an option. It's not a must do. It's just an option. So with that being said, this is Friday, August 28th. This session is focusing on grading in Google Classroom. And again, grading, every teacher has their own thoughts, ideas, reasonings, customizations for this. I am not here to tell you how to grade. I'm here to tell you how to grade with Google Classroom. So what are some of the features? What are hiccups that I have seen teachers go, oops, I thought it was doing, and you're like, no, it's not. Trying to help work through some of those things so that as we move into this school year, we can all kind of do our best to grade and be able to get the kids the grades. Kerry Gray, I'm going to give him a shout out right away. He tackled grading with Google Forms in Google Classroom, which if you haven't done it, it's a beast until you know the exact settings. And Kerry can attest that you miss one setting in one spot, it all falls apart. But you can go back and you can fix most of these oopsies, and then it works very nicely. But he and I worked through this a year and a half ago, I think, to get it to where it totally does work. It just does take a bit of prep on the teacher side with Google Forms. So that's its own little beast, just as a thought, okay? Okay, so I am going to go ahead. Well, I should say, anyone have questions before we start? I'm going to turn off the waiting room. Oh, good, I already did. Okay, questions before we start? Okay, so again, keep in mind, I'm not here to tell you you have to set up certain categories for grading. I'm not here to tell you you have to give this certain amount of points and that certain amount of points. That is totally up to you guys. So sharing my screen. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so we're here in Google Classroom. As a teacher, once you start putting things out, I think most of you guys were here for the last session, but for those of you that are watching, this to review button is a new thing. Like, it literally has come out within the last week, 2 weeks. Please check out this to review. It gives you very nice, concise lists of things that you have graded, things that you still need to grade, all that kind of jazz. But I have set up a fake Google Classroom. A couple of teachers have volunteered to be my fake students, and we are ready to jump in here. So first thing to note, as a teacher, you have a fourth tab that students do not have. They do not have this grades tab, which you might say, well, that might be nice for the kids to have the grades tab and then see their own stuff. To my knowledge, that does not exist. Okay, but that's what their to-do list will help. Anyway, let's go here. So let's go to our grades tab. First and foremost, this is your grade book as far as Google Classroom is concerned. And this is where I say kindergarten, first grade, maybe even into second, third and fourth, again, possibly. You might have some work that does not exist in Google Classroom. So this is not your all-encompassing grade book. This is where you'll find the pieces for assignments that you've put in Google Classroom. And it's a very nice, clean, your students are over here. You can change the sort order if you would like. Your assignments right across the top. It does give you kind of quick little snapshots of the due date, the point value right here, the assignment name. Notice it's a hyperlink. You can quickly access that outside of the gradebook page. Down here, you could grade very quickly if you would like. Just click in there, put in point values, check out what the Skinny Snowman allows you the options to do, returning it, or I could pull up this student's submission right away, all from this gradebook page. Now, the other nice thing is when you have those assignments that you're not assigning to everyone, when you come back to grade it, you may not remember, oh, I didn't give it to this student or that student. But over here, it's going to tell you that you didn't assign it to, you come over and you go, oh, I didn't assign that to Jessica, and I didn't assign that one to Laura. Okay, so it clearly tells you which ones that you did or did not give them to. So keep that in mind as well. Questions so far on this? There is a very popular question that I often get when talking to about this page. To my knowledge, you cannot reorder these assignments. They're just there. Okay, I don't know why you can't reorder them. As best as I can tell, this is probably the first thing that you've assigned. Just physically, like you went and you created this first, and then this was created, and then this was created. And you can see that my numbers are out of order. I started moving some things around. No, I think I want to have this first, because we all do that, customizing and all that. As best as I can tell, that is how the order of this goes. Your more recent ones are going to be a lot closer to your students' names. Your older ones, which in a way makes sense, right? Like you don't want to be looking at something you assigned 4 weeks ago and having to scroll to get to the current. Now, the other cool thing here, you see what this says right here? For our slacker, she's not here right now, but she knows it's okay. Angie, this one's missing because it was due today. I want to say 9:30. I could be wrong on the exact time. But now that that time has passed, it very clearly is telling me that this is missing. And do you see what it tells me about Miss Jessica Jackson? She did this one late. Again, it's not here to necessarily penalize the students, although that does give you a very quick read on what they have and haven't done. But it does tell you a little bit more of the information, right? So Jessica did this one late. Maybe she turned it in at 10. Oh, hang on, my dogs are about ready to bark. Sorry, my daughter was getting my dogs out of the room. But it does give you a little bit of the history of student work here too. And again, keep in mind, we might have kids that are working from home. So whether they're doing it because they were late, because they were sick yesterday, maybe they're at a funeral. I point those out because not every kid's going to be home because of COVID. They could very well be home because they have strep or they have a broken bone or whatever. Use these as indicators to your brain. But because this isn't your actual grade book, or it doesn't have to be your actual grade book, you can move grades or adjust grades or do with them what you need to do. Now, I will say that another thing that is possible, although I don't know if at the elementary level teachers tend to do this, but you can set up grade categories. If you're interested in that, can you just let me know and we can talk about that later. And maybe I'm completely mistaken, but my understanding, like most elementary teachers are not setting up like, this is a classwork chunk of your grade. This is a quiz part of your grade. This is a projects part of your grade. It is possible in Google Classroom, but you have to go through a few steps to set it up. questions at this point? The gradebook itself is pretty simple. It's pretty clean. I do like also here too, this class average row. Once you start putting in grades, like if I went in and I gave Laura that grade, give Diana that grade, and Jessica, I'm just doing this so that I can see differences. And then what I can do here too is I'm going to return that. When I go to return it, I could give Laura a comment. Not required, it's just possible. And now notice how my class average is starting to feed. And I could tell Diana, I'm sorry you aren't feeling well. Come talk to me. I know Diana put that she was happy. Just showing you some of these examples. Notice how my grade average is changing. So when you return it, I'm glad you are. You give them those pieces of feedback, and then your average changes. I really like this average because it tells me then a more holistic picture of what my class is doing. I can dig deep and look at individual students, but the class average gives me everyone's grade. Like in total, what is my class on average doing? I really do like that.
Sarah, do you have to return the assignments to get the class average?
Yes, did you notice it said draft down below all of them until I went into return? And now that's grayed out because I have returned it. It helps my brain know. The other option is when you click on the actual assignment. Again, you can see over here that these have been graded, and you can see how they're separated even. Angie's is still missing. Your guys's have been graded. You can see these comments. And then this is where I love. So Laura, if you were to go in on your side as a student, you will now see the grade and you'll see my comment. Diana and Jessica, same thing. And then if you look down here at the bottom, please notice these are all labeled private comments, which means it's just you and the student. Okay, so Laura could respond back. She and I could have this conversation. And when I say private, I don't mean like the kind that we don't have with students. I mean like this is other students are not able to see the conversation that's going back and forth with Laura and I. But it's still in Google Classroom. It's a very nice feature because then if there were ever a question, you know, where you're trying to give them feedback and you're trying to help them improve, and it shows me, timestamps it, gives me Laura's account, gives me her comment. I could comment back and forth. Now, I will say the problem with this is when you don't instruct your students that this is happening. If they don't know what to look for, they have no idea. They would come by it on accident. So if you say, hey guys, I returned your how are you feeling assignment. I want everyone to open this up. I want everyone to go in and I want you to see the comment that I put in there. The kids won't necessarily know unless a previous teacher has taken the time to do this with them. But if you take the time to do it with them, this allows you to have that back and forth. I'm not saying you do this on every assignment either, but you have to make the kids aware of it. They don't just naturally know to look for this. Questions at this point? Okay, so let's go back to classwork. And you can see I have a few things in here, a few assignments. My students, I did go ahead and post another assignment, but please don't stress about getting it done. I put it in there so I would have a different. Okay, so this weekly check-in is a Google form. This is actually a quiz. And I know that some students completed this quiz because when I click on it, it shows 2 turned in. It was assigned to 2 people and 2 people have turned it in. Rock on, right? That tells me very quickly everybody is done. So if you click on it, and this is where I say a lot of times, if I'm not there and you have a question, click on these things. Most of the time, you're not going to harm anything by doing that. So this actually just goes ahead and pulls up my actual quiz. And by the way, I just pulled this from my 8th grade class. So if you were like, where's Sarah getting this? This is stuff that I used to teach. So clicking on the form takes you to the actual quiz. Clicking on these takes you to this screen. Okay, so again, look at your headers. These two have turned it in. It's assigned to these two, but they have not done it. Okay, this is the teacher dashboard of grading. So notice I can't click on anything here with Diana because it's a Google form. It doesn't operate the same as a doc or a slide. I didn't make a copy for everybody. It actually dumps to the Google form is where I see the results. Just a note of clarification, this one is not set up to pull the grades back into Google Classroom. It is not set up that way. I have a second one that is, and I want to show you the big differences here. So when I click on this, like I said, it takes you to the form, but in the lower right-hand corner, because I created this form, you'll have this as well on any of them that you create. If I hover over that little pencil, it's telling me that I can go to the editing side. Students will not see this. They are not editors on the form unless you make them. So if I click on that, my screen changes, and here's where I could edit questions and see my responses. Now, Carrie Gray, I hope that you back me up. Remember when we were looking at the responses and we found all of the information and we were kind of blown away? It's nicer when you have like 70 some kids in here, and it really showed you all of the different pieces of information that you can get after giving a quiz. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Putting him on the spot a little bit, guys. We got to keep everybody on their toes. So this responses page gives you 3 different, and again, this is a Google form that I pushed out through Classroom, but I didn't tell it to pull in the grades. So I have to go to the form to get this stuff. It gives me all kinds of information here. Okay, so it tells me both of them picked the same answer. It's that one. Both of them picked the same answer here, blah, blah, blah. It's giving me this information, which is very nice. I can look at it by individual question if I would like to. I can see that they had 2 different answers there. I could look at it individually. I could pull up just Diana's and see what just Diana answered. Nothing on this form has any kind of grade to it. Okay? It's going to be a problem if you intended to grade it. So now you're going to have to sit there and you're going to have to figure out, did they answer the right question, or did they answer the right answer, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's possible. This might be a great thing to do if you're doing just like a check-in with your kids. Now, that's one example. You come through, you figure out your grades. You can go ahead and plug this in. Diana, you got 18. Jessica, you got all 20. Okay, it's still in my turned in chunk. I still have to click this return button. I'm only returning it to these 2 because these 2 haven't done it yet. And that's okay. You can return it in chunks. Now, multiple kids would both get the same private comment. Be aware of that. It's not a bad thing if you want them all to know the same thing. Like, hey, we'll go over this in class tomorrow. It's not a bad notification to give them, but they'll both get it. Or don't comment on it, and that is okay as well. Okay. Now let's immediately see the change. I now have that I've got 2 graded. It was assigned to 2 people, and those 2 people that had turned it in have now become my graded. I've got 2 more that it's assigned to. I think I said that backwards at the beginning. So in total, 4. My math teachers call me out on this stuff. Okay. Now, here's how it is totally possible. 2 of my students have turned it in. It's still assigned to 2 people. It looks the exact same here, but I'm going to go into the editing. It looks very, very different. I shouldn't say very, very. It just looks very different. Down here, you have to have this grade importing on, and the form can be the only thing that you have linked in here. You can't also attach a video. You can't also attach a Google Doc. You can't also attach a PDF. If you did, you had to put that up here in the instructions. The form has to be the only thing. Otherwise, Classroom gets a little bit confused and they don't know what to pull back. Okay. I'm going to leave this item alone. If you have a question about locked mode, we can talk about that maybe towards the end. It does have its own hiccups. I can't say that I'm like the hugest fan of it for that reason, but it's a possibility. And then notice like all my other stuff over here is all filled in. Okay, so save that. Now I want to go to this area and see my turned in. Okay, again, can't click on it because it's a form. And when I come here, I still need to go out to the form. Click on my pencil. Go to my responses. And now I get some really, really nice and easy to read data as a result. And this will update live. So if you have students currently working on it, you could have this screen up and you could watch as these values change. It's kind of weird, but it's awesome. Okay, so right away it's telling me the average is a 3 out of 8, the median is a 2 out of 8, and my range is from 2 to 4. So it shows that one person got a 2 and one person got a 4. You guys clearly don't know 8th grade history. Just pointing that out. Honestly, what this tells me, not that they don't know it, is that I did not teach them. I did not teach them well, and I did not teach them properly. That's really what it's telling me, which is probably good because I didn't teach them any of this. So good job, ladies. Good job. Now, here's another cool chunk. Frequently missed. It'll tell you which are the top missed questions. Neither of them got any of these 3 right. Imagine if you had 70 kids and no one got the one question correct. You might go, oh, maybe I should check my answer key. Any of you ever mess up on your answer key? Because I certainly have. You can fix it and it'll adjust. So here's the other piece. And this gets a little tricky when we're talking about our elementary kids. Because yes, it has their email attached to it. They do not have and will not have access to email. They do not need email. But when you release the scores, that's what allows them to be able to see it again in Google Classroom. Even though they get no notifications, it has nothing to do with their email. They don't have to worry about email. It's possible. And then again, here you go. Here are your responses. Again, don't show them the top parts. But as a class, you could have good conversations around these questions. You could be pulling up these questions and it'll, you hover over it and it tells you these answers. And see the green, got a little teeny tiny check mark. That's the correct answer. Not something big and glaring right in their faces. And then down here, you can see this is green, check mark. Hey, they both got this one right. Yay, you don't really probably need to talk about that. But you come down here, here's another one. Nobody got this right. Let's talk through this. Let's talk about this. Let's have a conversation. A little bit of data analysis, data interpretation. It's nice to be able to do this with the students in a way that nobody knows who answered what. Just get past that top part first. Again, repeat all of those questions. You can do this. You can also individually look at these questions. Would not suggest pulling this up because, again, it tells you specific people. Don't go there on that. And then you could, if you needed to, look at it specifically for a particular student. Okay. Now let's go back to my summary. I am ready. I'm confident. I've checked this over. I've adjusted this. Actually, let me look at that one question. My last one. Okay, so what else have you learned? This was just a straight up like response. I can enter in point values here. It's out of 0. I didn't give it any points. I didn't want to mark anybody wrong for it. But you can also add feedback for the student. I mean, they're always pick C. Brilliant. Giving me some test taking tips. Love it. You know, but you can go in and adjust. And Carrie can attest sometimes too, this is really helpful to be able to do some of these adjustments before the kids get it, before they get all freaked out by the scores. Questions on this part? And until you start doing this, I'm going to tell you this whole grading with Google Forms and Classroom, it's a lot. It is truly a lot. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my summary. I'm going to go ahead and release these scores. You can send a message, but the kids aren't getting emails. And then I'm going to come back here. Probably have to refresh my screen. Okay, so then you see the button up here, import grades. I'm gonna go ahead and click it. Are you sure you want to? And I say yes. Give it a moment. And you see how it pulled Diana's and Jessica's grades forward for me. Still in draft mode. I haven't returned it yet to the kids, but what I can do now is click it, return, add a comment if you would like. And again, bumps them down now into the graded area. Now, when Angie and Laura eventually do this assignment, I can import their grades as well. Okay. Now, I know that's a lot. That's a big thing. I wanted to tackle that and get it out of the way. It's an option. And I have a nice little slide deck that will help walk you through each of these individual steps. But I know that that's such a beast. Let's keep that in your brains. And now let's move on to probably how most of us will be doing classwork, grading, and all that kind of thing.
And Sarah, not to interrupt, but don't forget about progress book too.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
Absolutely. So down here at the bottom, this was a Google Doc. And this is something that will be very, very typical for all of us. I don't want to actually open the doc. I'm sorry, I wanted to open the assignment. This is what I love about Google Classroom. And for you 4th grade teachers, towards the end of the year, you can add on the idea that while Google Classroom is different than Schoology, Google Classroom has a lot of the same features that Schoology does. And in fact, Schoology, I think, kind of borrowed them from Google Classroom. They have like a drive integration that allows teachers to operate in large part like this. So know that you are preparing your kids by doing this for Schoology, even though it's a completely different platform. Okay, it's not like Schoology is a complete 180 from what you guys are doing. It has a lot of these same features. So keep that in mind too. You guys are doing a lot and preparing them very well for 5th grade. Now here's the cool thing. Do you see, again, I can see who's turned it in. Angie hasn't done it. Over here, I could go ahead, plug in grades if I wanted to. But here's the nice thing. Like, I can click on somebody even if it's not turned in, if it's not turned back, I can pull it up and I can see it right now. So if Angie were to be working on this right now, I could be watching her work. And I say watching, because we're not face to face. It's pretty nice to be able to do that. You guys look great at all different times of the day, at different points and all that kind of stuff. You can still give kids feedback even while the work is in progress. So let's say for Angie, maybe I want to give her some feedback on here. And I'm just going to pick one word. And you see the little add a comment option here. So Angie's working on this. She's not completed. I am grading without attaching points to it. I can add a comment and I can say to her, keep working hard. I notice you are struggling. Whatever, fill in the blank, whatever you need to guide them to. You could add in links if you needed to. You could redirect them, copy paste a link. Maybe you found a great video that might be helping them. Go ahead and comment. And then when she looks at her screen, she'll be able to see that I've made a comment on her work. Okay. Now, the other cool thing, I'm just going to give you a heads up, this will be something that you have to work with over time, is if you see these two little icons here, and again, nothing's like really smacking you in the face, but there is the ability to have a comment bank. You could add in a lot of different comments. So if I wanted to comment again, I do, I forget how this pulls up. Do I just pull it over? There's an easier way to do this. I forget. Doesn't it automatically start typing for you at some point on the comment bank? Who are my commenting bank folks out there? Anybody? I thought there was an easier way. I'll figure that out later. But you can always just type in comments. Now notice, and I'm pointing this out because this was an area that I did have a few teachers in the spring get confused about. They said, but Sarah, I am commenting on this and the kids are saying they can't see anything. I don't understand this. Well, here's where they were misinterpreting what was going on. They were putting private comments out here. Kids won't see this out on this far column until after you've graded it and you've returned it to the students. And I can't even return this to Angie because she hasn't turned it in, which means I can't give it back, which means she won't see any of these comments out here. I have to comment here for her to be able to see them because she's still in progress. Okay, make sure you understand the two different areas to be commenting. It can be a little bit confusing. And then when you're grading, you might go, well, now I have to close this out and go back. No, you don't. No, you don't. Up here, look at this little shark toothy. Click on that shark tooth. You can pick a different student from here. The other option you have is these carrots that you can go back and forth through your classroom. If you noticed again, when I clicked on that little carrot, you can do a little bit of different sorting. So by status, whether they've turned it in, they haven't turned it in, it's late, whatever the different categories are that you have for that particular assignment. Maybe you sort them by first name. I don't know who does that, but it's an option, right? So that's very nice. So grading, you could have this open and you just keep toggling through till you get to the end of your students. Now, I pointed this out in the last session. I just want to re-point it out. You can see the history. So again, I assigned it at 9:48. Jessica turned it in at 10:16. As we saw in the last session, if a student turns it in and then unsubmits it and then returns it in, as many times as that happens, you'll see that on this history window here. Okay? Now, when you're ready to grade, Jessica has turned this in. I can do all of the grading right here. Maybe I give her a 98. Add in a comment if you would like. You can see how now that I've put in a grade, now you see that that's not returned. It's kind of like letting my brain know I haven't done it yet. You can return it here, click your shark tooth, check and see what else. So if I'm ready to return just Jessica's, I can. If I've graded 5 of them and I'm ready to return all 5 of them, I could click multiple and go for it that way. Okay, it kind of just depends on how do you like to do this. Do you want to wait until everybody's turned it in? Let me go ahead. I can't grade Angie's because she's not done. Diana, I'm going to give you a 100. There you go. And Laura, give you a 100. Save, save, save. Make sure you wait. It does automatically save, but just make sure, and we all know that Wi-Fi sometimes or internet sometimes has their little hiccups. Just make sure that that works. Okay, now let's click this. What if we say return multiple? And then it's going to bring up, I've graded these 3. You could still not return one of them if you wanted to. But if you do, click return. Wait, wait, wait. Notice how they're changing from green to the gray. It's just going through. So if you have a lot of students that you're returning, pack a little bit of patience. I don't know, maybe my Wi-Fi is going a little bit slow today. And now do you see how this is grayed out so that it tells me again that it's there, it's done, I've done it. So when I come back here, I'm going to, it's already pulled through on here. I've already returned it and Angie's the only one. So again, if you use points, think about how nice this helps you as the teacher, because then you know for students that are at home, students that are not completing work, you can quickly access their work here. I gotta move my videos out of the way. If I click on Laura's individually, it takes me to the grading, which is really nice again. If you need to. Okay. Questions on that part? So you can see that depending on the file type that you share out, huge differences in how the grading happens. Huge differences. And I'm not going to tell you that one is better and one is worse. It's what is working for that particular assignment, and then go with that, and then just know that that's what you're going to have to be able to roll with. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything on my screen since, okay, hang on. This little gear wheel, let's check him out. Okay, that might be something of interest later, but only for my progress book using folks. And that's not what I was talking about, so, okay. So let's go back here. I have one more file type in here, and it's this redfish, bluefish. Okay. So I've assigned it. I made a copy for everybody. This is actually a Google slide. And does anybody else see what I see on the screen? Do you see that Diana has a comment over here? I might be interested in clicking on this, and oh, look, she's like, am I supposed to be able to move the fish? Oh, so she might have a question on here, and then I need to address this. So let's check this out. Go to student work. Let's see what Diana is seeing. Oh, I didn't change it to make a copy, did I? Anybody else feel my pain? I don't think that I did. Let's see. Edit. Nope, I only let students be able to view the file. Teacher fail, right here. Okay, so here's my fix for that. Let's go back in here. I'm going to, actually, pretend that I remake the assignment. I have to re-push it out to the kids. It happens, explain it to them. You're human. let's open this up. This is actually what they should be able to do. And I love this. My little kindergarten, first grade teachers, Eric Kurtz, he's my dude. He's an Ohio guy. He pushes this stuff out all the time. Dr. Seuss, read it, red fish, blue fish. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. That's the whole title. He pushes this out. Do this individually, do this as a class. Third, fourth grade teachers, this is also pretty awesome. I just wouldn't recommend doing it every year. The kids will get tired of it. But anybody do Venn diagrams? Venn diagrams. Read the book, make that literary, connection, that good stuff. And then depending on their age, I've gone in and I've done this with first grade classes. Okay, so you have to fill in all the ones that are red, all the ones that are one, and then what goes in that overlap? The red that are one, right? So this guy, it's a real nice drag and drop activity for when we have really good Chromebooks that are coming at some point. Go ahead and laugh. We'll see who's laughing when they come in. I might be crying. No, just kidding. I can't wait for them. I'm excited. Okay, but these guys are red. So then Diana has really alerted me to the fact that I made a big oopsie, right? Don't get mad at her. Embrace it. Admit that you're human and you made a mistake. And then keep rolling. Like, I love this activity, by the way, just as a heads up. You can get pretty complicated. Like third, fourth grade teachers, 3 Venn diagrams. I mean, talk about what these overlaps are. And then when all 3 of them overlap, like that's pretty good thinking right there if the kids can explain this. And I did this with first graders. We didn't quite get all the way here, but the other thing that he does down here at the bottom, go to this one, is he goes ahead and fills in and then they have to adjust like what those titles are. Just saying, like this is a pretty impressive activity that he's pushed out. And then he also does have at the end, blank ones, your kids can create their own. So what would their categories be? Here are some fish that they can copy and paste into that slide. It's amazing. Just a plug for him and his activities. Which really has nothing to do with Google Classroom grading, but you could totally use this or take chunks of these slides. Anywho, so long story short, let's say that I did this correctly. I look at the student work. They've completed it. It grades a lot the same as what a Google Doc does. So slides grades very similarly, obviously because slides are laid out slightly different. It's gonna look slightly different because it's the tiles. Google Docs would just be multiple pages. Okay, now, Laura, or actually Diana, would you be willing to be a little guinea pig and show your screen so they can see it from a student perspective? Or not? Oh, Diana says yes, she will. I have to give you permission. By the way, that's the new default in Zoom. If you haven't noticed that, by default, you have to go in as by default, as the host, you're the only one that's allowed to share your screen. Every time I've done a Zoom, I have to go in and specifically allow the participants to be able to share. So if you get, freaked out like I was like, no, you can share, go ahead. And they're like, no, I can't.
Is it ready now?
And it just takes like, I don't know, 10 seconds to shift over to her. Okay, Diana, can you actually click on your hamburger menu for me and go back to your classes, please? No, click on the hamburger.
Yeah.
And then click on classes right there.
Oh, the word classes, okay.
Okay, so this is honest and truly how I think you should be specifically instructing your students. Okay, do you see how Diana has that to do? This is new in Google Classroom, brand new, like within the last week, 2 weeks, whatever. Diana, go ahead and click on that to do. You'll only see it if you are a student, okay?
Okay.
Diana is a student in my class. So she can see that this is her assigned page. There's nothing that has no due date. There's nothing that's due this week. There's nothing due next week. There's one that's due later.
And that's this one.
Yep. So if you click on that, so you can see where Diana made that comment, because I didn't make a copy for everybody. Okay, now can you use your back arrow? Yeah. Now, if you go to missing, let's see if Diana's missing anything. Hey, look at that. Good job.
Okay.
And then go to done. Because I have graded a few of hers. So do you see the numbers over there? One is no due date. If you click those carrots, Diana, it will allow you to see. And then do you see where she can kind of see like her grades? It's not a grade tab, but she can see. And when you open up one of those, it closes out your other ones,
Oh,
which it's nice. And then each of these are hyperlinks back to those assignments. So if Diana really wants to, well, I turned it in, Mrs. Kiefer. I don't have a grade. Or, oh, I got an 18. Can you find the one? I think it's under the no due date. It's all the way at the top. So this was the auto graded one. Notice she can see her grade out there.
Oh.
Yep, you're there. You're good. Stay right there. But what if Diana wants to actually see the form? Because she wants to see her answers. She wants to do more than just the 4 out of the 8.
do I want to look at this one?
Try it.
Yes. So I can see what I did wrong.
And then do you see I've tucked in feedback on some of them, not on all of them.
Where's my feedback?
Go up a little bit. Up.
There
Right
it is.
there. So as the teacher, you can customize feedback, but you don't have to put feedback on everything. So where in docs and slides, you're putting feedback in right on that. With forms, you have to tuck it in ahead of time when you make the answer key. So keep forms completely different than everything else. Does anybody have any questions as far as like the student view? Diana, can you go back to your Google Classroom? It's a tab that's open up there.
Oh,
Yep. And then go back to your, actually just click on this particular class now. Up a little bit. Yep. And notice how she does not have that grade tab up at the top. She only has stream, classwork, and people. And I've had a lot of teachers, it's a big conversation out there. Can we turn it off so that the kids can't see the other kids on the people tab? No, we can't. It's not a possibility. Questions, comments? Jessica asked a question. I've always just used a student in my class and logged in as them to see the student view. Is there anything bad? There's nothing bad about that. Just, you have to just be hyper aware that you don't complete anything or do anything as them. That number one is going to probably freak them out. Like, I didn't do that, but it's gonna show through their account. But it is certainly not bad at all. It's more on the teacher side, just know that you're not meant to be doing their work for them. But it's a good question. And I should also clarify, I will be giving each grade level at each building their own fake student, that if you want to add them, that way you can see that student view of it. Just as a caution, remember, they're not going to be answering the work unless you're doing it for them. So you always have that one student hanging out. Okay. I don't have anything else specifically to cover. I'm going to open this up. Does anyone have questions, comments? Does it feel doable? And fourth grade, I haven't forgotten about you. I know you still have, I have that one thing to talk to you guys about. And kindergarten and first grade, remember, maybe you use some of these features, but again, you guys are handling kindergarten and first grade a bit differently than what like a third, fourth grade teacher. Second grade kind of walks that balance. You guys all know what's best for your students and what's best for you professionally. I can assist you and make things work in a way that works for you. But that is kind of like a general overview. Okay, questions, comments? If not, if you're not a fourth grade teacher, and I only say that because fourth grade does like the traditional grades as far as like a 80%, a 92% kind of thing, that would be pushed into progress book. So if you're a kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade teacher, you are welcome to hop out right now. I'm going to continue recording this so that if other fourth grade teachers come back and watch this, that they'll also be given this little nugget of information. Again, not something that you have to absolutely do. And if you're a third grade teacher, I mean, again, I don't believe that you would use it in this manner, but you would know better than I would for that. And you're always welcome to hang out anyhow. Now, fourth grade teachers, this is not something that's been done to my knowledge in Ross, but I was talking to some teachers at a different school yesterday. And one of them asked the question, well, can't you push grades to Progress Book through Google Classroom? And I didn't pipe up with an answer. Another teacher piped up and said, oh yeah, I do it all the time. And I was like, you do? And he goes, oh yeah. He's like, there's a button in Progress Book that says sync with Google Classroom. And as soon as he said that, it dawned on me. I remember that Progress Book has been trying to roll out these features so that they're not like left behind in the dust, because they kind of operate from back in the 70s and they don't seem to want to join into 2020. I talk to them every year. They won't make an actual app, and it frustrates me because just make an app already, people. That's what people need. Anywho, but as soon as he said that, I remember reading an article about it that was pushed from Progress Book. You have to go into Progress Book. And from there, you can sync, and you'll have to give permissions. Like, I want it to connect to my fourth grade math class or my fourth grade language arts class, or like whatever you're naming your classes. You'll have to pick that you want to sync to it. And then also he said you pick the particular assignments. So even if you give an assignment in Google Classroom, doesn't mean that it all just shoves back. You can do it, but then you don't have to create the actual assignment in Progress Book. It pulls everything back for you. I was like, sweet, I've got to remember this. Okay. Now, with anything, I would check it out. I would try it. Don't bank on it until you're confident that it's working correctly. And as far as I understand, we don't have to do anything on our end as administrators. This all is for you. Okay. And again, like I said, you don't have to pull everything through. You can pick and choose which assignments you want to actually dump into Progress Book. So it's not that continual feed. Like once you connect it, it's just constantly shoving things over. You would have to go in, but then you're not doing your grading in Google Classroom and then coming to Progress Book and redoing everything in there. You certainly can. This just could be one easier step for you if you would like. And since none of our other grades handle grades that way, I thought you guys might be interested in checking that out. And if you do check it out, please let me know, like, your thoughts. Did it work? Were there hiccups? Because if there are hiccups too, it might be something that, like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'll probably have to call Robin Baker Stacy Parton. They're more of the progress book experts, but we can get it done. Carrie, did you have a question?
Yes. I've decided to go with only one classroom for the first quarter.
Okay.
So if I have assignments for math and language arts and science or social studies, how would classroom know what class on progress book to put those in?
So I'm envisioning this. I don't have like a teacher progress book account. And I don't even know that you could go in at this moment and check this out. But in my head, this is how it's working. You open up your math progress book class. And instead of creating that assignment, typing in the title and all of that, you find the sync Google Classroom option. And then you'll have to say, okay, progress book, I want you to talk to Mr. Gray's 2020, 2021, it's a lot of 20s, class. And then in there, I want you to pick this math assignment.
Okay,
Pull that over into your math class.
gotcha.
And then in progress book, open up your reading class. And then do the same. Go to
Okay,
Google Classroom, pick this assignment, and pull that over.
okay,
Okay,
That makes
and it
sense.
does feel like work, but it's not the work of retyping and then putting in all of the grades.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think it's definitely something to check out. Oh, you see the sync button? Can you try clicking it? Oh, Laura says the fire alarm's going off at school, so she's not going to unmute. That's the second time in this last hour.
It's awful. I can't function.
Oh, Sarah's at school too. Wonderful.
This is going to be annoying, but I did click it and you can sync it. It comes up with like a pop-up that says choose an account to continue to progress book. So it'll sync it right there.
Now, again, hold your breath. I'm not going to lie to you. Progress book a lot of times is, I don't know, a little backwards, but we can figure it out. It's just, don't put all your eggs in that basket until you try it, and we'll go from there. But if you guys are willing to try it, I say, hey, this is going to be awesome. Because I also imagine you guys probably taking, I don't know, more grades in a lot of different ways than some of the other grade levels. So, other questions, thoughts? Okay, I'm going to stop recording.